Hi everyone, my name is Brandi Howard. I'm going to be talking about my proposal of how to close the achievement gap in Woodland, California. The achievement gap is the difference in quality of education being offered to different students. There's what's considered low tracking classes that receive subpar schooling because they are either so far behind in their learning or because of an English language barrier, whereas these first class learning classes were being offered to everyone else and progress was being seen within those students. A few main causes that have been seen throughout educational studies are a civil rights issue where poor children, mostly those of color, are being given an education where educators are inexperienced or unqualified. And then there is also an opinion where there's a disproportionate number of students as minorities and is the underlying reason that the achievement gap has remained so persistent. This is means that the children are receiving slower and less impactful instruction and being denied the right to the same education to better themselves. And then also another reason is that there is a cultural and gender bias in testing, and so children are being slotted into roles for their future careers for a certain gender or culture based. And this affects children as then they grow up to believe that they can only be one thing at one time in their life. In Woodland, I have seen a lot of this type of achievement gap, the cultural and gender bias, as a lot of the schools in Woodland have a lot of Hispanic students in just certain educational locations. So a few schools will have low income or Hispanic and immigrant only students, whereas another school will have predominantly white or fast track students that go through their educational journeys real fast. I believe that I would like to propose a plan right out of a playbook from Burris and Wellner, who wrote a paper about detracking school classes. I think this is important to realize that some of Woodland schools are fast tracking some students and neglecting other sites. And I propose that each school creates an experimental, and this is really important, an experimental class where all students, school district wide, are being taught by similarly educated teachers with the same premise of lesson plans and programs. So we're getting the same material to each and every student in these experimental classes and seeing for at least 2 school years, to analyze improvement, then reevaluate after those 2 years so that we can see how much success has happened and make it a more prominent way of teaching in the future. I know that this will cause a lot of friction. I'll have a lot of obstacles to overcome to even try to implement this. The biggest obstacle I can foresee in trying to get this proposal up off the ground would be the lack of support from parents. It's difficult for parents to give their children the help they need already, and trying to get in an experimental plan with no guarantees that it's actually going to produce change and improvements will be very difficult. The second obstacle I can see happening is the school board not allowing this to happen. Already in Woodland, there is a financial struggle to get qualified teachers into the school, and to need specific educators for this experiment for at least 2 years might cost a lot, and that's just something Woodland might not be able to afford. Some of the resources I will definitely need to implement the solution for the community is, hands down, educational school board support. Schools, principals, parents, teachers, students, student aides are going to be very resourceful for this plan to work, as student aides are going to have to help certain kids get up to par to be in the experimental class. And then, of course, community support. The outcomes I foresee this to happen is equality inside the classroom, school-wide based curriculum, not teacher-based curriculum, community unity, and improvement in student learning. This concept would be really great for the community of Woodland because it will create equality and inclusiveness for everyone. It will also allow parents to come together as one unit to help get their children the help they need as it arises, instead of just one parent struggling to find help from random places. Communities that have a common goal are way better neighbors and friends than they are divided by class and culture. This has been my proposal for closing the achievement gap. Thank you for listening.